All right, just wanted to give an update on the Road King ROADGLIDE conversion. Right now I have the fairing mount already on. These 4 holes here, that's where the inner fairing is going to mount to. I already fitted it. It fits. One thing that I wasn't sure of, and there wasn't a lot of pictures or guidance of, is where that inner fairing mounts to. So it's kind of hard to see. I'll try and turn my wheel a little bit and get some of these wires out of the way. But you see one gold and one gold there. Okay, so the frames are all drilled for those. That second hole is actually it's where the piece went, but it's just it was to hold wires. All right, you can see it right there. So I just gotta put that back in there. The frame had these plugs in it on both sides. 3 out of the 4 holes had those plugs in it. You just pop them out with a screwdriver. On my Road King, which is a 2013, this bottom one right here was also used as a wire guide for looks like my I guess my clutch cable or something right here. So that one actually had a threaded insert inside the in the hole from this side. The other side was unobstructed, so I just had to I drilled it out and knocked it out with a punch, and then I mounted this up. It's not tight yet. For bolts, I don't remember the size. I just went to Home Depot. I actually brought this whole mount with me to mock it up. I got I believe they're 3.5 inch long grade 8 bolts. You can't fit anything on this side. I was going to put a washer, but there's not enough clearance. On this side, I have I just put lock washers too. And then, so right now I'm kind of at a standstill because I have to put the nacelle back on. I ordered a new one that I'm going to trim so that I can hide all these wires. I'll show you that when I get to it. So right now I'm waiting for that, and I'm waiting for some wire to extend some wiring. I'm gonna have to make my own headlight extension because the ROADGLIDE headlight has a different style connector. This right here is my turn signal connector. So I have that right here. I just marked it. This one's split, so what I did was I marked which side was left, which side was right, and I cut it so that I could mount the turn signals, because I'm going to need to extend it anyway. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this back in, and then I'm going to mount these with some of those tabs, and I'll mount it to the inner fairing. That way I can take the outer fairing off just like it would be a stock bike fairing. And I'm going to put clips on these. I bought this clip kit a while ago on Amazon. I'll show you what that project was, but sorry. It's just various like Deutsch fittings. So I'm gonna put some quick two clip ones on the turn signals, so it'll come off just like it's factory. I'm sure you can do whatever you want. It's really just a basic piece. So this one is this one's actually like a 12 pin. So this is going to be slightly complicated. It's running down through my bars. I went a step ahead. Last year I had cruise control installed. I did it myself. I just ran the wiring diagram. I bought the touring switches for a bagger, not for a Road King, because it had the additional switches for the radio, audio, and the mode. So I ran those switches and ran them inside the bars when I redid the bars. So that's what this connector is here. So I'm gonna have to clean that up a little bit. Last year I had a wide open customs fairing on it, and I wanted it to maintain quick disconnect, so all my audio wires ran in. This is the other end of the plug, and these are all coming from the audio controls. So the audio controls then went to a retro radio harness by Biketronics. This thing is awesome. I gotta be honest, their tech support wasn't really helpful. They kind of brushed me off, but I left a message. I believe the guy's name is Mike. He's the owner. He called me up, and we spoke on the phone for probably 45 minutes. It's basically telling me how to do this. Super helpful. Basically, you just connect the wires that would, your audio wires on one side. These wires that are taped off would go to speakers, but I'm using an aftermarket head unit. So that's where, and then on this side, you're just going to connect the blue and yellow, black, red and yellow to the to your head unit, and then you'll have hand controls for your head unit. So that's what I'm going to do with that. The only other part that I wasn't sure about, I'll pass on. Not that big a deal. You'll figure it out when you take it apart. The switches, these front pieces actually unscrew. I didn't know that. I was boggled by it for a while. Not when I went this far apart, but when I was taking the nacelle off. So basically, to get these off, it's pretty simple. I'm trying to put it back on. This lower nut, that's going to be pushed up against the inside of the nacelle, and that's what stops this front one. It really tightens down on it. So you just have to loosen this bottom nut from the inside, and then you could take the outside nut will screw completely off, and you can slide these right off. It's pretty easy. Everything else, that's it for the nacelle. I took my bars off just because I know I'm gonna have to deal with extending wires. Like I said, I'm gonna try and keep the inside of the inner fairing to just the headlight and turn signals. This is a pretty big connector. There was a front piece on right here that I took off, so I'm gonna try and fit this right through in here, so that again I can take the radio off the bike if I had to. And with the the Road King nacelle that I'm going to trim up, all these wires should be able to tighten up nice and neat inside here. One thing I got to keep in mind is that this has to continue to turn back and forth, because it's going to be a fixed fairing. I just have this jacked up a little bit right now with my floor jack, just so I can test fit everything. Just a quick little update on the inner fairing. I started installing some of the parts just to get some stuff done, just in my basement. I installed all the glove boxes. Everything I ordered was from TCMT, including the glove box doors, but it did not come with the hinge. I ordered the hinge directly from Harley. I can find the part number for you. But that did not come with screws. I just got screws that fit it. It's these M4s. These are just from Home Depot. I actually had to split it between 12 millimeter in length and 10, just because they didn't have 4 bags of 12 that I needed. So, but it works. Couple other things that I'm working on here while I'm waiting for parts. Mostly I just need to extend some wires, so I'm waiting for that. But I added some fillers into the gauge pods. I'm not running any gauges with this fairing. I'm going to keep everything on my tank. This is like a carbon fiber lookalike. I'm going to show you what it looks like on the back. I just had a sheet of Clydex that I cut square right here and just used 2 out of the 3 holes that are there for the screws. Looks good. Can't see it. And here's some of the other parts that I mounted. It's basically just the glove box door. I couldn't put the air ducts in until I did the gauges because that covers it up. So that'll be next, and then I can mount the radio harness. Okay, I'm installing the turn signals into the outer fairing. Let's see, they stay connected to the outer fairing. There's a bunch of videos on how to take the outer fairing off. I'm not going to redo that. You need a couple parts. Let's see here. These are the parts for the other side. They are side specific. This is this piece here. Goes through and basically gets sandwiched together. And then there is a flange piece here. I was fortunate enough, I already had these bullet style turn signals on my Road King. If you don't, you will need those. So what I did here, see this socket cap screw here, I took those off obviously on this side. The cap screw that comes with in the turn signal right here is a little too short to go through this piece, so I swapped it out. I just went to Home Depot and I used matched the threads up. It is a 5/16 24 fine thread by 1.5 inches in length, so I use that. As you can see here, it is a hex head. It's not ideal, but it'll work. Doesn't match the other ones, but it's fine. And then what I'm going to do is use this cap screw. I'm going to put that in backwards. So the back slot right here. At least it has a finished look. And then I just got a nut for that. I'll cap that. So this wire though, again, I'm waiting for some wire extensions. I want all the factory colors to match. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect this to the inner fairing. That's kind of how it is on the real bike. I have these stick-on wire attachments, I forget what they're called here. Mounting tabs. Again, you can get these anywhere, but you just run a zip tie through this piece. So I'm going to stick those right onto the fairing like this, and I'll connect the other end. I have connections that I have to put on as well. I made up a headlight harness. This is a factory Harley headlight. I was able to get it for like $100 on the marketplace, so I grabbed it probably a year and a half ago because I knew I was going to do this. The problem I had was that the connector on the back, sorry, right here, this 4-pin connector, I wasn't able to find anything. It's not like a common headlight size. At least I couldn't find what I needed on Amazon, so I ended up going ahead and getting the Harley connector. I tested all the pins. It's 4 pins from the left. It's a daytime running light, high beam, low beam, and ground. And then I went and ordered. I got all this from the parts diagram from Ronnie's Harley. You can see that number. There you go. I got 6 pins just in case I messed up. A lower secondary lock. And then this is the actual connector plug. You're also going to need one of these bad boys to make the crimps. So pretty much what I did here was I bought a H4 male pin. I got this from Amazon for a couple bucks. I think it was like $4 or $5. Because my the Road King has a female end of this H4 plug, so I needed to be able to connect to that. So what I did there was I bought that adapter, got some soldered connectors right there, and then this is the Harley connector for the ROADGLIDE headlight. So it's like I said, daytime running light, high beam, low beam, and ground. I just tested it with a drill battery. Everything works as it should. The only thing that's not connected, pre-connected, is the daytime running light, because my Road King doesn't have a daytime running light. So I'm just going to connect into an accessory power there. That way the light functions same as a factory ROADGLIDE headlight. All right, outside I showed you this was my turn signal connector. I had marked the left side with the tape. It splits off, as you can see. I knew I wasn't going to have enough space to connect it, and if you're familiar with taking off the outer fairing with the ROADGLIDEs, you actually disconnect the turn signals almost immediately after you get the air duct off. That way they maintain mounting to the outer fairing. So in order to maintain that, I added these connectors on. They're just Deutsch connectors. I showed you the package. I got them from Amazon. And then on the other side, the part that's going to connect to the fairing, I showed you the mounting the other day. So I'm just going to extend the wires. This is what I was waiting for. I wanted all the factory wire colors. So then I have the male end here. So this plug will, right here, will get connected to the bike for the factory wiring, and then each turn signal will plug in like this, and this bare end will get connected to the extension piece that stays on the fairing. So when I take the fairing off, the outer fairing, I'll just unplug this piece, and the whole thing will come off at once, just like the factory fairing. Okay, I got the nacelle cut today. This is going to hide all my wires in the back here. So when the new fairing is mounted, all the wires going into the inner fairing mount will be covered up, and it'll look nice. Normally on the ROADGLIDE you have gauges here, and that covers it up, but with the Road King it doesn't. And I didn't want to leave anything exposed on the handlebars over in here. Plus I wanted to keep the switches that get plugged in right here. I want to keep those as factory switches, so I didn't have to do anything crazy. Basically I just cut with an angle grinder. I used a round template. What I did was I went back a little bit back. I think I went 1/4 inch past the top of the plate for the inner fairing mount. That's how I started. Made a straight line there. I did this off the bike too, by the way. I taped it all up with painter's tape, marked it with a Sharpie, and then took it off the bike in case I plunged through. I didn't want to hit any wires. And then I did a round template to meet the flush opening here. So basically I just grinded it off to the point where I can turn the forks all the way. You can see now there's no obstructions, because the forks are still going to turn, but the inner fairing mount isn't. Hopefully this looks nice and clean. As soon as I'm done completing mounting this, I'll polish it up. I got some things I got left to do. I'm gonna have to take it back off. That's kind of why I'm holding off. I do have a couple wires I have to extend still. I've been holding off because it's cold in my garage and I'm not riding now anyway. But this was a big step in making progress moving forward. The other problem is I have a T-bar basically set up, even though it's a riser bar separate. So the way, let me show you the old one first. This is the old top plate I have that goes with these. I'll show you on the, hold on 1 second. The old nacelle. So this was my workstation. That's just half of the nacelle. We can work with that. So this is a stock top plate, if you will, right here. It's gonna fall, but basically your bars run underneath it in the flat spot. But I ran tall risers, so that wouldn't work. So these are the type of top plates that I have to use now, and I like the bar setup so much better, so it's definitely worth it. There's 2 holes there for the risers to come through. The problem with that is that once the bars are mounted, you can't take this completely off. So what I have to do is, because I took the nacelle completely off, the old one, the chrome one, for this black one, what I'm going to do is I have to take the nacelle back off completely, take the bars off, put this top plate on, put the bars through, reattach the bars, and I'll just pull this up and, you know, like zip tie it or hold it up, whatever, until I tighten down the nacelle and everything, and then I'll drop this back down, and then I'll be set. But I got a black one of these to match as well, so that, like I said, that's everything had to come completely off. So now that the nacelle is cut and I'm good to go, I can start reassembling the handlebar area and get this mounted. These nacelle bolts, these are just socket cap screws. They're 5/16 by 18 threads per inch, 1 inch. I just got them from Home Depot. Nothing crazy there. I used to have the double studs on the factory Road King for the windshield mounts. These holes in the fairing mount are actually 1/8 by 18 teeth per inch and 1 inch in long. They're hex screws. I wasn't able to find any at Home Depot. Most people will tell you that they don't make bolts that small. They go to like number 10, number 8s after that. So I just looked them up on Ronnie's Harley. That's what they're listed as 1/8 bolts, and they're grade 8. So I didn't want to get something cheap or cut corners on that, since that holds the whole fairing really to the bike. So I ordered them. I'm waiting for them. I got a notice that they shipped. I think they were a couple bucks each plus shipping. I don't know, maybe 15 bucks all in just to get the right bolts. So I didn't want to cut any corners there. The only thing that's not really finished with this cut job there is edging. I thought I had some edging, and I guess I threw it out the last time I cleaned the garage. But basically I'm just going to take some nice rubber edging, like door edge trim, automotive door edge trim, and just put it on here. So I sanded this nice, but just so that there's no sharp edges in case there's, you know, wires that come in contact. Plus it'll give it a more finished look. So I'm gonna order some of that from Amazon and put it around the whole outside trim so that this looks nice in factory. And the spear piece, I trimmed that back as well, cut that so that matches. Again, I gotta wait for that, put everything together to mount that. But there's a nice side profile of it. I just went nice and wide here because I wanted to make sure that everything's hidden from the driver's area here. So when I'm riding, I'm not gonna look at anything nasty. I'm about to mount the inner fairing. I just tightened everything up here with the nacelle and wiring. So this is the last time you'll probably see the inner wiring like this. Like I mentioned in the last video, I have these taller risers. So I had to take the bars and risers off completely to mount the black riser plate to match the black nacelle. I put the edge trimming on. I don't think my last video had that. I was waiting for that from Amazon. I got the bolts, 1/8 Harley bolts for the inner fairing mount. I tightened the inner fairing down. I actually test fitted it before. You can see I have the fairing supports still hanging on there. I test fitted them with those on. So just to recap, I trimmed the nacelle all the way around so that I would have full turn without hitting. Let's tuck this in there. Not important. So I just wanted to show you the wiring that's going to be coming out of here. It looks a little intimidating, but it's really not. And most of you guys probably won't have all of this. So these bunch of wires here actually are for my steering wheel handlebar controls. So that comes through the top of the mount, and I explained in an earlier video, that's this connection here, okay? So if you don't have audio handlebar controls, that's eliminated right off the bat. Next piece is, is this quick connect here. Okay, this is this actually is the accessory switch. Gets its power from the switch right here on the nacelle. So I always had that. I had a USB power outlet. I just decided to keep it. It was easier. And I have another pigtail that's going to extend over to this area where the cigarette lighter is on the inner fairing. So that'll be powered with a switch. Again, if you don't want that, you don't have to have that wire. Right here is my headlight wiring, half of it that I'm holding. This plug right here is the female plug. That is the stock Harley wiring. This orange plug is an accessory power wire that has, it's hot basically if you're on accessory or if the bike is in the on position. That is going to power the daylight running lamp on the ROADGLIDE headlight. I just added a quick disconnect so that I can take it off just like the rest of the headlight clips. Going down, this extra pigtail you see here, again, it's not necessary, but I wanted this to work like factory. So with my Road King, if I was on low beams would be on. If I went to high beams, the low beam light would shut off. That's not how the stock ROADGLIDE headlight works. That one, when you're in high beams, all the lights are on. So I wanted to maintain that. So this right here is just, it's like an accessory plug from Ciro, C-I-R-O. It was like 20 bucks. And that I'm assuming some sort of relay inside here. There's a bunch of different write-ups online to do it. There's guys that do it under the fuse box and they jump the wire. There's people that do it in the handlebar control for the high beam. You can do it for probably next to nothing, but I was scrolling the internet and this was 20 bucks and it just seems super easy. So I tested it, it works. So there you go. And then the last wire that is coming through is this guy right here. You can see it. I'm trying to focus. That one right there, that's for my turn signals, as I mentioned earlier. And I showed a video about that. So those are the wires that are coming through. So I have my headlight, the accessory plug, turn signals, and my steering wheel control cluster. If you don't have the steering wheel controls, then it might only be those 3 or might only be 2. But that's what has to come through there. I tried to clean up my wiring the best I could, but I also have to maintain the ability to fully turn. You can see I also trimmed up the spear piece, so it's gonna look pretty nice, I think. Looking back here, be a nice covered piece. Last time I left, I was about to mount the inner fairing. When I shut the video off, I realized that it did not fit with the trim nacelle. This piece, I actually had like almost flush here. So the inner fairing goes up further. So even though I made full turn of the handlebar, I didn't meet the size of the inner fairing. So I had to trim back a lot more than I wanted, but it still looks good. It hides everything from the inside. So basically I just I cut this back a little bit more, and then I made an angle to meet the old flush piece here. So it actually works out better on full turn. There's more room for the wires. I ended up having to take everything off, the inner fairing. I was doing it quick on and off with like 2 bolts a bunch of times. Sorry, it's a little crooked here, but I trimmed the spear again. And you know, like I said, from here, you can't really see any of the wires. So that's the whole point of this, is basically to clean it up. I kept those 2 switches down there, you can see. I'm gonna go put the inner fairing back on and see what it looks like. Okay, got the inner fairing mounted up. I only have 2 bolts holding it on. Doesn't make a difference. The reason I only have 2 bolts is because it has to, all the bolts have to come back out. The radio harness, headlight harness piece, that bolts to these same bolt holes. So I'd have to take them off, so I'm just not wasting my time because that's the next step. I just didn't want to put that extra piece on, an extra weight, when I was taking this whole thing on and off. So coming inside here, you can see a little bit, you can see the fairing mount, but overall it still hides everything pretty nice. I'll give you a backup view here. There's my carbon fiber gauge fillers. I think the bars and the risers look pretty nice there. Can still get to these switches okay, and like I said, I have full rotation here on both sides, so that's good. That rubber piece helps, but you know, like you said, let me show you. Let me go full turn. So see, I just make it. That's so you might have to take your fairing on and off the trim to make sure. There's like a, I don't know, maybe 1/8 inch of a gap there. It's hard to see with the camera, but there's a little bit of a gap there. So on to the next step. Inner fairing's all mounted up. Got the speaker pods on today with the speakers. Mounted the head unit. It's a Sony XAV 5000. You kind of need that for these bikes. It's a single DIN on top with a full double DIN screen. I'll show you that in a second. Looking through the wire channel here of the mount. I explained all these wires before. I have my turn signal split wires right here. I just taped this so I knew which side was what. This is my new headlight connection. I tested that works. This is my auxiliary power, and the rest of this cluster goes to my Biketronics adapter, so I have steering wheel controls or handlebar controls. The speaker pods come with holes in it for speaker wire already, so that's coming out right here. I have my turn signals wires coming out from the top here. I'm going to mount the little tab there to zip tie it too, so they don't not flopping around. But that needs to be up there so that you can take the outer fairing off. So I have that there. I ran the USB cable into the glove box on the left side for the Apple CarPlay. This auxiliary wire is running through. Got a mounting tab there, the sleeve, then it's going to the socket right there. So coming over here, I'll show you the bike. This is the left glove box. And here you can see the USB cable. That's just the female end. You got to plug in your mini USB or your lightning cable to that. The speakers. Okay, there's the head unit itself. All right, so I think I mentioned this before, but if not, I kept these switches down here, and those are active. I kept it the same it was. This left switch right here, I flip that on, and I get the light here for my power outlet. That's a dual USB and also a voltmeter. Turn that off. And this side is the radio. I like to be able to turn the radio completely off. Sometimes I use a Cena head unit headset and I don't want any radio on. So you can see over here, it's my audio down. You can see it going down, going up. Okay. This side, I think, changes the that's just scanning the presets. If I push it, it changes the band. It's got Bluetooth. All right, she's all done. I didn't bother recording putting the outer fairing on. As I said, there's a bunch of videos on that. A couple things though that I did forget or miss is this back bolt for the turn signal. In a previous segment, I said I had it through bolted. That actually mounts to the inner fairing. So you can take that out if you listen to me. I apologize. Everything's all tightened up. The original part that I had for the air duct didn't work. It was just a cover. It didn't have the mechanism. I bought the switch separately, but it didn't have the door mechanism. I ended up buying this whole piece in the vivid black with the mechanism and everything for like $90 from Bagger Brothers. So I highly recommend them. Really good quality. Everything's all tightened up. Looks good. I'm very happy with it. I'm about to go take it for its first test ride as all the salt washed away from the road, so I can take it for a spin. The only thing I would say that isn't exactly to my liking is there's a little gap here between the inner and outer fairing. And on this side, it's not as bad, but I'm not sure when I have to take it off again and see if I can figure that out. But other than that, everything lines up good. I don't have a windshield yet. I didn't order one. I'm waiting for a couple friends that have ROADGLIDEs to give me their stock ones, just for the measurement aspect. I just want to ride with like a stock height shield, and they kind of gauge where the airflow is. I'm pretty short. I'm only 5'7", so I don't want to get one that's too tall. So I kind of want to just gauge height, go for a ride, and then buy something good. All right, time to go for a ride. Any questions, just let me know.